Discover Help presents Stress-Free Living with Ray Samich and Mr. Stress-Free, Ratanjit S. Sandhi. This audio program is an unscripted and unrehearsed conversation between Ray and Ratanjit. It is shared with you in hope of adding value to your life. We encourage you to listen to this program in its entirety to receive the full impact of its message. Sit back, relax, open your heart, mind, and soul to this edition of Stress-Free Living.
This is Stress-Free Living. Thank you so much for being with us here today. I'm Ray Samich, and I'd like to introduce all of you to my longtime radio colleague and my dear friend and spiritual brother, Ratanjit Sandhi. Ratanjit, how are you today?
Wonderful, Ray. Wonderful. Thank you.
So glad to be with you and with all of our guests. However you may be listening, watching, we have so many ways of doing that now through our modern technology. But we want to especially let you all know that we have a Stress-Free Living radio channel. You can just search for that, Stress-Free Living Radio, and you will find over 100 shows that have been recorded on a variety of topics. And not only that, but you'll also be able to listen to the actual Zoom calls where we interact with some wonderful guests, some of the most brilliant people from all around the world, moms, dads, professors, brothers, CEOs, all kinds of people that are joining us, and we can interact with them during the show and after the show, and that's all recorded and there for you. So it also includes the link. So if you want to be a part of that conversation, and there's no qualifications necessary, if you're interested, we'd love to have you be a part of that. Ratanjit, we have a very special show today because you and I have both known people who go through loneliness, but I don't think we realized until we really looked at the statistics how common it is, and more importantly, how serious it is. Because there are some statistics that say, for example, in the young generation of 18 to 22-year-olds, almost 80% of that generation say that they experience loneliness on a regular basis. And overall, it's about 60% of adults say that they are lonely. And that is just such a staggering statistic. We need to talk about that. I need to ask you, and I'm not kind of bragging on your behalf, but I can't imagine you ever feeling lonely. Do you even have you had that on any kind of a regular basis in your life?
No, Ray. Fortunately or unfortunately, I like to spend time alone because but I'm not lonely. So there's a difference between spending the time alone. So it's not like I'm an introvert. I like people. But I don't like the social parties where you are drinking and eating and talking nonsense. And so I stay away from that. Basically, I spend quality time with people and myself. So, the loneliness, which is never because of lack of friends around you, lack of loved one around you. Loneliness basically comes from a mindset of thinking what is in it for me. So when you are always thinking about yourself, you are going to end up being lonely, because even in the meeting, you are thinking, what is the use of meeting this guy? What would I benefit? And when you go to some place, what would I get from here? So in this mindset of what is in it for me, it leads you to loneliness. And also, there is a fundamental thing that when your self-worth is reduced less, you feel lonely. The example is people who are working and when they retire at age 60 or 65 or something in that area, and suddenly in year, 2 year, they end up contracting so many disease, and many of them die. And they become very lonely because the purpose in life has gone away. And their main purpose, they think that, gosh, I can't wait till I retire because I want to visit things, I want to see things, I want to spend time for myself. But after a very short while, you get completely bored, because until you give back, you don't gain the self-worth, right?
Ratanjit, as you always do, your opening comments is like a tree with branches that we can go down. And I want to go through several of those different things you just spoke of. But I also want to make sure that for perhaps very obviously, there will be people who are lonely. When you have a statistic like we just spoke about, there's a lot of people who are lonely who are listening to this right now and who will be on the recordings that will be out there available to them. So when you start and say that, and I'm paraphrasing intentionally, that it's basically their fault, okay, that the way you've expressed it is that, if they're thinking about themselves and what's in it for me, that's causing their loneliness. And respectfully, that comes across pretty harsh for somebody who is feeling loneliness, for somebody who is very discouraged, depressed, and that often leads, again, the statistics show, to all different kinds of mental health disorders. And so if they're listening right now initially and saying, hey, I want to get help with loneliness, and the first thing I hear is that this is all your fault, and that it's because you're thinking about yourself and not thinking about others, that's a pretty bitter pill, I think, and to swallow initially. It may be true, but I think we need to, the problem is that most of the health experts, especially along the mental health fields, are telling people that it's a condition. It's not their fault. A loneliness is a condition that people that is a normal feeling for people, and some people, for whatever reason, feel it more frequently and on a regular basis. I think that's arguable because, as you said, you've never known it. And in all honesty, I love my moments of being alone, but I don't recall being lonely. That's not a condition that I have experienced either. So it kind of says, the opposite from what the experts are saying, and that everybody feels that it's a normal feeling, because here we have two people that have never felt it. So what do you say to that when we start? How do we, before we have all those people click off their radios or their computers, is it their fault? I mean, how do you explain that?
It's not their fault, or we systematically educate our society to be lonely. We educate, when you're 5-year-old, you goes to school, you tell her that, stand first, get good grades. You have to be on the top of the class. You have to compete. We are not designed to compete as a human being. We are designed to cooperate. So when you compete, you are moving towards the loneliness and all these problems which our society has. We are the richest nation in the world, and we are the sickest nation in the world. We have more health problem, more mental problem, more loneliness problem, more depression problem. Loneliness eventually leads to dementia and all these other problems. Loneliness increases your chances of dying by 50%.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that staggering? Just stop for a second and think about that. That something like, not your heart, not your breathing, not a ravaging disease like cancer, but loneliness increases your chances of premature death by 50%. That is just a absolutely staggering statistic. When I saw that one, I can't even comprehend that. Is that, you think, because you don't have a will to live? You just don't care about whether you're here or not because your life is so miserable when you're lonely?
You are going against your basic fundamental design. Supposing you're driving a car. Car can drive forward or backward, right? But it is designed to travel thousands of miles forward. But it is only designed to come out of your parking or these things in reverse. But if you decide to drive a car in reverse, what is going to happen? First of all, when you are driving in reverse, it is in the first gear, you are going to destroy your car. But if you survive that, you're tilting your neck, seeing back, you'll have a problem with your neck. And then if you survive that, you are going to have an accident. Your chances of living decrease. So when you drive against your fundamental design, all these problems happen. So it's like this. If your human system is designed to eat not fried food, not these kind of food. So if you eat those good food, healthier food, your body will be healthier. But if you continuously eat this junky food just because of your taste, you are going to be sick. You are not designed to eat those kind of foods. So similarly, you are not designed to think, what is in it for me? You are not designed to be selfish. If you see the natural psychology, which has basically designed everything, when you look at a tree, an apple tree, which bears apples, but it never eats its own apples. Its apples are there for anybody to eat. Basically, all the universal system is designed to achieve successes. Apple trees' ultimate success is to have apples. But you are not supposed to have your successes for you. What is in it for me? You are supposed to have successes freely give to the society, to everyone. So once you begin to think of adding value and serving others, that is why people, when they retire, they do voluntary work. They begin to add value. And the stats is those people have less loneliness because they begin to add value, right?
You know what's interesting, Ratanjit, is that, and I think we understand this part of it, You mentioned the retiree. You mentioned the person at the upper years of their life. I think we can understand the loneliness that many of those people feel. They've left their job, they've left all their friends, they've left their routine that they've done for 30, 40, 50 years, whatever it might be, 60 years. And so now they suddenly change everything. Many of those people unfortunately go through losses of relationships, the death of their spouse or their significant other. Their friends are passing away around them. They no longer have their parents when they're elderly. They maybe some of their siblings they've lost. There's a lot of loss in their lives. And so it's understandable that for many years, the group of people that was most notable for being lonely was seniors. But the statistics today say that that's not the loneliest group of people. The loneliest group of people are age 18 to 22. They are at the prime of their life in terms of their physical health, their in intellectual capabilities, they can do anything. The world is their oyster, to use that old term. When you're 18 to 22, it's just all beginning. It's all in front of them. And they're old enough now legally to go off and do it. They can drive anywhere, they can travel anywhere, they can choose to live any kind of lifestyle they want to in any country around the world. So I especially don't understand that. I have some understanding for the seniors with that part of their life. How do you explain this tremendous rash, which incidentally, COVID has made worse? That 18 to 22 group was experiencing loneliness, but over the last couple of years, that has ramped up even higher. What is your thought in particular about that age group?
See, as a child, when you are growing up, you have to realize that you are constantly confronting new changes. Your body changes, world around, your outlook changes, world around you changes, your knowledge changes. You are going through all these changes. So you have been told to study hard, to get a job, and get married, have children. When they see their parents gone through this, so they say, gosh, this is what life is all about. Mm-hmm. Just to work and eventually have this house and what is the idea of this? Because they are smart, they are very intelligent. So whatever we taught them, whatever we have set our society or social system to, does not make sense to them.
I think you nailed it, right, 100%.
Yeah. So that's why they wondered, well, what is this all about? And eventually they get disenchanted from everything. Because initially they are brought up in good families and they had everything, all the toys and all the glamour and everything. So they basically seen it all. They've seen the worthless of all these things. And they have never been given the joy, inner fulfillment feeling of taking them and serving somebody. They have not been experiencing the true purpose of life. And that's why they are completely disenchanted. Right?
There's so much to explore about this topic. It is serious. And if you are experiencing loneliness, whether it's just periodically or on a regular basis, it's not healthy for you. And you know that. And we need to try to talk with you about it and help you through the situation, perhaps look at it differently. And it may not be medicine that you need, physical medicine. It may be some ideas for your head and some thoughts for your heart. So we're going to share some more of those with you, or for those of you who have loved ones who are experiencing loneliness. We'll be right back with much more on Stress-Free Living. All right, everybody, we have a brief window here, so much to talk about. If anyone has a thought or a question you'd like me to ask, please share that now. Briefly, though.
I would like to jump in. Good morning, everybody, because
Good morning.
it's a great topic. Morning, Ray. So I would like to suggest that the answer, the central answer, actually lies in the central question that you posed, Ray, yourself, which is why loneliness is most common, at least now, at least in this country, in younger people. And I think the answer lies in the rise of technology and the rise of virtuality. And that's why this loneliness got accentuated during COVID, because we were living in an increasingly virtual world then. So the human interactions have become, less common, especially face-to-face human interactions. We have replaced that with virtuality. And that is, and going back to what Ratanjit ji said earlier, that the humans are programmed to be more cooperative and not as competitive. So that's another aspect of it. Our modern world is based on being competitive among people, among societies, among races, among countries, among religions, you name it. So I think there are two issues here. One is the increasingly virtual world we live in. And the second is this competitive nature of our modern society, which always isolates people. It's like a cutthroat world we live in. So, I mean, there are a lot to be said about, I just would like to start out with those two considerations.
Thank you so much. And we're coming back in a moment. And we are back on Stress-Free Living. Ratanjit Sandhi and yours truly, Ray Samich, joining you today, and we're so glad that you're joining us. We're talking about loneliness, and it is certainly a epidemic proportions. Again, if you're just joining us, about 60% of adults feel loneliness on a regular basis, and almost 80% of people within the age group of 18 to 22. We're talking about everybody today, but can't ignore that particular age group that is feeling so isolated and alone. And there is a difference. I say alone, but it's not just alone, because people can be alone without being lonely. It's a different feeling, and certainly those who are going through loneliness know what I mean. Ratanjit, you said earlier that we are meant to cooperate and not compete. And it does seem that there is that element that is so prevalent with younger people. And, they grow up, we always grew up playing games outside. I mean, that, whether it was Cowboys and Indians that we played, or war that we played when we were kids, or Secret Agent we would play, or whether it was board games or things like that, you were always competing against each other. That was just what kids do. And then today that is taken to a different level with video games, with all types of competition that they engage in for hours and hours. Do you think that competitiveness, and you mentioned the obvious ones in a classroom, parents say you have to be the top of the class, you have to look better, you have to, present yourself better. We're very competitive in our mindset. Do you feel that ultimately can lead to feelings of loneliness if people feel like they aren't good enough because they always have to compete to win?
Well, see, there's two sense of feelings we get. When we, simple thing, when we eat ice cream, you satisfy your taste, your five senses. And when you give ice cream to this boy, young boy, and feel the joy he or she experiences by this ice cream, that is another feeling which you have. That feeling is much higher to give you the inner joy than eating ice cream yourself. So now the whole society is focused on having more flavors of ice cream to my disposal, though I can eat more. So similarly, technology, when you look at the technology, so let's take it very simple. When we came from horse and buggy time to the car, so suddenly you got this new car, which is all fancy, and suddenly you are driving it, you are showing it, but this car, you are totally engaged in this car, and eventually, until you utilize the car for what it is designed to do, is carry people from one place to another. So there are two aspects of it. Either you enjoy or show your car and go and drive around and boom and accelerate and show off, or you take these people who are in the homeless category or people who are older and become a driver, offer to become a driver for them and help them go to the doctor, go to shopping, go to other areas, and helping them. So again, one side you are fulfilling your five senses, your ego, you feel good. The other senses, other time when you are helping somebody, you are fulfilling your inner desire, your core purpose of being in this world, being alive. We are designed to add value. So if the technology, when you have this telephone, you are playing games and you are doing all those things, and until you utilize this to add value, you are not going to get the real inner satisfaction. So outer satisfaction, supplying the pleasure to your five senses, eventually is going to bore you and going to make you lonely. So that's what happens to us. Although on the surface we say, oh, technology has done this for us. Or incentive given to us through our education, through our upbringing, everything is accumulate things, become somebody, become famous, become rich, compete. So we have basically fed our five senses. Whole system is designed to feed your five senses. We have not fed the real need of our soul, of our being, to add value. And we have starved that portion, and that is why we are lonely. Right?
At the essence of competition, I am thinking about myself. I am thinking about how I'm going to win, how I'm going to be better at doing this. And part of that is okay, because you do need to be all you can be and fulfill your purpose. But when that becomes the only way that you get satisfaction, if that becomes the only way that...
The place of competition is there. You compete against your last best to add value. And interaction with others, you don't compete with them, you add value to them. The competition is with your own last best, your cooperation with all your interaction with the rest of the world. Right?
Let me, and I love that. I agree with that 100%. But let me understand this, because why would the competition that we have with others that we need to make ourselves feel better? It gives us self-worth. If we win that race, we feel we have value now. How is that different than when I focus on myself and I say, I want to make myself better? I want my better to be best. And so I have more value. How is that different? How is the one kind of acceptable to focus on myself but making my best better, and yet when I'm focusing on myself because I just have a new car and I'm driving around it and it makes me feel better to be in the shiny new car? What's the difference?
To understand this, you have to understand the self-worth. There are two kinds of self-worth. One kind is experienced by your ego. We call it self-worth. I'm better than him. I have a better car. I have a better home. I have a better job. I have more money. I'm more handsome, more. So that is not self-worth, that is ego. Self-worth, another self-worth is felt by your soul. And that only happens when you add higher value. One direction is towards me. What is in it for me? I have more money, I have more this, I have more that. And that is ego. And the other self-worth is what can I do for you? What I have done for the society? Have I added value? Yes, to add higher value, you need to get better tools of knowledge, education, skills, and everything. So there you are competing with your own self to make yourself better. Your competition is to acquire better tools, not to boast, but to add higher value. Fundamentally, it has to be understood. Yes, more educated, more understanding, more knowledge will help me to decide how can I add better value to society or to other people, to people around me, even to yourself. You begin to add value to yourself by thinking, once you understand this human body is a gift to me, you start adding value. When you understand this human body is me, you park in ego and selfishness, although you are serving this human body. So when you are parked in ego and me, you are going to indulge with this human body. When you are thinking that, when you know this human body is a gift to me, you begin to add value to this human body. You begin to eat right, you begin to do proper things which keeps this body in shape, which is really a gift to you, allowing you to add value to others, to fulfill your mission of life. Right?
Ratanjit, beautifully spoken, and absolutely the truth for people to comprehend and dwell on. But it seems that there's a fine line between the self-worth of ego and the self-worth of adding value. And I want to use an expression that you have taught me many times, that you can't have a child, you can only be a father or a mother. You can't have a friend, you can only be a friend. And the emphasis has to be placed on the responsibility we have, not the ownership of another individual. So when you said earlier that when you have ice cream, it tastes great and you're really happy, but when you give somebody money or you give them an ice cream cone and you watch the little kid eat the ice cream that you made possible, you feel so much better. But that gets into that ego thing again, because if you only feel better because you bought that for them and now they're experiencing joy, so now you say, boy, look at me, how good I am. I bought them ice cream and I made them happy and I'm a good person because I did that instead of buying myself an ice cream cone. That's not what you're talking about, right? I mean, that's just another way for us to show our ego, not to really have a friend and
Could be an
versus,
ego. It
be
could
a
be
friend.
ego if you give with the intention of I am better than him, this is poor, this is I cannot afford, let me help him, let me give it because I have the money and I feel better because. But if you give basically as a sharing, as a joy you experience of the little child, then it is from your heart, from your basic inside inner being. So there's a difference. It could be ego. So until you have started to experience your real self-worth, you are going to always mistake as this thing as real self-worth, but it is ego. Ego plays very funny tricks until you understand, until you become grateful for very being. When you are grateful for your capacity to be able to help this child to have ice cream, if you are not feeling grateful inside and you are feeling proud of sharing, there's a major difference. The moment you feel proud, it's ego. The moment you feel grateful, it is the inner self-worth. So original gratefulness must be seated in the fundamental fact that this human body is gifted to me. And once with this gift, I'm able to acquire knowledge. With this gift, I'm able to develop skills. With this gift, I'm able to engage in adding value. Then the main feeling you will always get is gratefulness. And gratefulness really feeds your inner true self-worth, and it'll prevent you to be lonely, because the moment you are grateful, either you are lonely, you are grateful. It's like an opposite side of this. You cannot be lonely when you are grateful, right?
So much more to talk about on this topic, but I think we are making some progress in a different mindset, a different way of understanding, comprehending what's really our purpose in the world and what we are supposed to be thinking and how we're supposed to be acting and reacting to the world around us. We are talking about loneliness here today. We're going to talk more about it when we come back. This is Stress-Free Living. Stay with us. Okay, we are on a quick break here. Rakesh, I just want to let you know I did not forget about the virtual and the technology. I'll get to that. I was just talking about the earlier topic that we had already addressed.
Oh, no. It was no obligation for you to comment on my points. I enjoyed the interactions. Very good. Thank you.
Worthwhile. So I intend to bring them in the last segment here. Anybody else have a thought here? Quick thought that you'd like to share with us during the break?
Yes, my quick thought is, and Ratanjit has brought up a whole number of different things going through my mind about loneliness. But when you first mentioned loneliness, the first thing I thought of was that age group of 18 to 20, what it was, is the fact that they don't interact with people. They interact through their phone. They're just not. And I think it's so important. There's a lot of other things that Ratchet brought up. It's so important to face, talking with people, going to the workplace, interacting with your coworkers. And it seems like people aren't doing that anymore. They're just on their phone, texting or whatever. So I thought maybe that might be a big contributor to loneliness, but Ratchet just brought up a whole different thought in here anyway. But so just threw that out there.
Very good. Thank you. A similar thought to what Rakesh said. We will be definitely covering that next when we come back. And Ratanjit, great, have those numbers that you always give in terms of communication, 57% and 29%. Have that handy if you would, because I think that's going to be relevant when we come back. All right, I think we're coming back here. We are. Stay with us after the show, folks. Welcome back to Stress Free Living. Ray Samich, Ratanjit Sandhi with you this fine day, and thank you so much for being with us. Ratanjit, there's so many more things we can talk about. I think we will continue the conversation on loneliness beyond this program, but there's one more issue that has come up that a couple of our guests on Zoom have added, and I think it is very relevant, and that is how technology has also changed, especially for younger people. The interaction, the communication has dropped off. My son has been a teacher for 17 years in high school, and he says that kids sit next to each other in the cafeteria, right next to each other, but instead of talking face to face, they text each other, even though they're literally right next to each other. We're doing a Zoom right now, which we're using through phenomenal technology across the country. We have people on this from around the world, and yet we're not getting the same thing out of a Zoom call. Even though I see you and hear you, it's not the same as my ability to be next to you in a room and interact with you, hug you, sense the emotion that I get in a one-on-one personal experience. Do you think that the technology that is so incredibly creative and phenomenal, do you think that's hurting us as a humankind? Do you think that is causing us to lose some of our emotion and connectivity that we've always had until now?
It's definitely accelerating it. You know, there's two examples, to understand this. There are two kids. One is brought into competitive thinking. What is it in it for me? More indulgent. And other is helping others and thinking how can I make a difference to people? So both these kids are given the new technology. The guy who is parked in indulgence basically is going to use this for Facebook and all these things and text and all that. What is it going to show? Who has more clicks on his Facebook and all these areas, and eventually that kid is going towards loneliness. The kid who is using the technology to make a difference, but does not become slave of the technology, uses the technology when is needed to add value to others, mission doesn't change. So basically, if your mission is parked in what is in it for me, it is going to, you are going to be more affected by technology in the adverse sense. You are going to be more lonely, you are going to be obese, you are going to be all these things because you are basically involved in enjoying your five senses experience, whereas you are not enjoying the inner soul's need. So once you realize that you are designed by nature to give and add value. So fundamentally, when we tell the young child, who are you? What are you designed to do? How are you designed? These initial things so important to educate them. And once that understanding is there, your mission of life becomes crystal clear. And then it doesn't matter how many technologies you have. When you have atomic energy given to you, instead of making bomb, you are going to use that for medicine, for good for human beings. If you understand what is your purpose, what is your mission. So it doesn't matter, this technology or all these things, but they are going to make the matter worse if your mindset is already parked in your indulgent mode. Ray?
One of the things you said earlier, you've mentioned self-worth many times today, and you said it right from the very beginning. And one of the things that I did read in the research is that they do have people who are lonely tend to have a lower self-worth, a lower feeling of their own value. I do think, don't you agree, that the virtual world, the fact that Facebook pictures and Instagram pictures and Snapchat and all that stuff, and the fact that we're doing Zoom calls more, it's a proven stat that there's much, much more plastic surgery of the face going on today than ever before. And the period of time that accelerated that absolutely is with technology advances, and especially with COVID bringing out the use of Zoom. If I feel inferior, if I feel like I don't look handsome enough, I don't like my nose, I don't like my lips, I don't like my cheeks, whatever it is, and I see that, and I have that inferiority feel that I'm not good enough, that absolutely leads to loneliness. How can what you're saying about a cooperative state and an adding value state, how can that offset the fact that I don't like my nose? Okay, that I feel inferior about something as important as how I look. I'm obese, I'm balding, whatever it is that is I don't like this about myself. I have a low self-worth. I develop loneliness. How can what you're talking about overcome something that I have to live with 24/7?
It's the same thing, Ray. If your thoughts and your skills and your equipment does not focus on making a difference to others, your nose, good or bad, is not going to make a difference to others. So your nose is basically your egoic need. You want to look, in your opinion, better. You know, it's again, until you are, it doesn't matter how you look. There are very ugly people in our history who we, take for example, Mahatma Gandhi would not qualify to be more handsome, right?
Right.
What we
Albert
know,
Einstein. These
Albert
were not.
Einstein, my goodness. These people did not worry about what their nose and what this structure looked like. They focused on making a difference. From the stage when Mahatma Gandhi became a barrister from England, his purpose was to find a good job and become more famous and make more money. When he confronted the atrocity caused by this British Empire to people, and his mission changed to bring justice and freedom to human beings, his mission got aligned to the natural mission of adding the highest value. And look, he transformed into a smart barrister to an amazing leader. So that is what this does to you. And he never felt lonely, did he?
I don't know. Sometimes you wonder about that. You see the movies of people's lives and you say, wow, they did great things, but they really were just people. They just were human beings having experiences that most of us have at different times, and loneliness is one that, like you and I talked about, we're not used to that. But there are certainly times that we go through other emotions that are, after bad things happen or after, losses of people in our life, that we don't maybe feel lonely, but we certainly are saddened by having certain things come up. So I don't know. I mean, how would we know if somebody great like Mahatma Gandhi ever did experience loneliness?
So Nelson Mandela, he sat on the jail for so many years.
Mm-hmm.
But his mission carried him in a sense that he is now adding value. He's making his society free of this thing. And although when you are in prison, you're basically lonely. So whenever you are confronted with the thought process of adding value, you are parked in the mindset of adding the highest value, loneliness goes away. You are suddenly in the line of purpose. You are sent here, you are designed to add value, designed to make a difference. We all are here for a very short time, 70, 80, 90, 100 years. We all know what our fate is. We all have to die. And when you think of, what is the purpose of collecting these things? I'm going to die. You will feel very lonely because suddenly everything becomes meaningless. But if you, in this life, doesn't matter whether you live 50 years or 100 years, there have been many great human beings lived on this earth only for 30, 40 years. But what they added to this history, to this human life, is amazing. So it doesn't matter how long we live, as long as every moment of our life, living life, is spent in gratefulness for the opportunity to add value. Gratefulness for this amazing equipment, your human body, which is allowing you to understand technology and use technology to add the value. So until we are grateful for all that, but our focus, our mission remains to add the highest value. So direction is not from others to me, but from me to others. Life falls into place.
Ratanjit, thank you. I will end it right with those beautiful words. Thank you so very much, Ratanjit, and everybody else for being with us for this show about loneliness. We're going to continue this conversation. It is absolutely worthy of some more talk about how people can overcome loneliness. Thanks so much for being with us. We look forward to being with you again. Remember, we're all playing the same game. Have a great day.